Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Thursday, October 9th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and it is the biggest card of the season by far. Obviously, you're not a genius figuring that one out, but when you look at Tuesday, obviously only having 3 games for ESPN on the triple header. We had, of course, 4 games last night, and then we jumped to 14, count them, 14 NHL games on the docket here for this Thursday night. So you talk about opportunities galore, bets galore. I think I got like 70, 80 bets in the accounts for NHL tonight. If you include player props, that is on the board. I think there's some football involved in that too. It's not all hockey, but it is a pretty high volume. Ian is at it again. But nevertheless, it's obviously a big card tonight. Smaller units, though. I must stress that. It makes me think I'm just throwing money around left and right. No, there's a lot of these bets are smaller units tonight, but I feel there's some good prices out there with some underdogs tonight that are live, and I think especially from an underdog perspective, I think there's some good plus price shots out there on the board tonight in the NHL. So looking forward to breaking it down. Lots of opinions. Looking forward to getting to those. We'll just go quick with the recap. Toronto 5-2 against Montreal. Frustrating. It was 2-1 Montreal at one point. I have team total over and Montreal money line, and we don't hit either one of those. They don't score again after that. Even though that was 2-2 in the third, a winnable game. But what a night for Mo Riley. Morgan Riley for the Leafs had a great game. That was a call Joe Bowen made of a Morgan Riley goal years ago, so that's why I said it like that. But Morgan Riley had a great game, and he basically backed up what people were saying going into the season about Morgan Riley, that he was going to look to jump into the offense more, jump into the rush more, be a little bit more offense, really looked to be more of an offensive defenseman this year because he really worked on his skating in the offseason, and that was evident last night. He skated very well, no question, and he had a great game for the Leafs. They had Nylander was good, Matthews. It was a good night for a lot of the better players on the Leafs, no question, last night. And Montreal, I thought Montreal played a pretty solid game. The Leafs were disjointed at times, but the Leafs were opportunistic in that game, and Anthony Stolarz was terrific, and not a surprise after what we saw from him last year. Terrible beat for Alex and anyone on the under. That's brutal. That's absolutely brutal. Empty net. We love it when we're on these overs in these games like that. We call it empty net magic. What do you call it when you're on the under? It's empty net horror, I guess you could say. But that was terrible. But a 5-2, terrible beat for the under there. But 5-2 Toronto there in that game. How about the Boston Bruins pulling the upset over the Washington Capitals? We mentioned yesterday the one concern I had with Washington was that Jeremy Swayman would be, much more in rhythm, obviously having training camp and all the preseason under his belt. And sure enough, he played extremely well for Boston. Now, Washington, like I said, didn't finish their chances. They looked a little bit sluggish last night. We were concerned about just, sometimes Washington's speed quotient isn't what you'd like to see it, but it was definitely a solid road effort from Boston, and they're victorious. How about these coaches in their debuts? A lot of them victorious here. Dan Muse won his first game behind the Penguins bench, and of course Marco Sturm last night getting the win there in that Boston victory over the Washington Capitals. Of course, if Boston wins and scores goals, David Pastrnak is going to have a hand in it most nights. And, of course, he got one of the goals last night for the Bruins in that game. But solid road effort. Jimmy Murphy was saying they're going to struggle defensively, but last night, certainly with Swayman and the defense combined, they were able to subdue Washington. Anyone on the under there? Yes, including Aaron. Very easy winner there. If you're anyone on that under with the Bruins and Capitals, but Boston, a nice win there. And then the 2 late games were just off the charts entertaining. Wow. Edmonton, same old Oilers. Slow starts, opening night losses. How many opening night losses in a row is this now for the Edmonton Oilers? Just ridiculous. I mean, they just can't get out of their own way early in the season. It's unbelievable. They have a 3-0 lead against a Calgary team that we got our questions about, whether they're going to have a good season or not. And here's Edmonton, can't hold the lead. Calgary roars back. Greedon Gridden looked very good for the Flames, the young Russian who was in the lineup for them. He played well in that game. You look at it, Dustin Wolf, as Robert says, was terrific last night, gave the Flames a chance. Don't be fooled by the fact that Edmonton, scored 3 goals. He played well. It could have been worse. He was very strong in net, gave Calgary a chance. And then a marathon shootout, 8 or 9 rounds deep, and Calgary ends up getting the shootout win last night over the Edmonton Oilers. Just a disheartening loss for Edmonton, considering they were up 3-0 at one point. And then Vegas, LA, this was definitely a great game too. This is a terrible loss for Vegas, my goodness. I mean, you look at, they fell behind early. Maybe LA, this is an angle we'll talk about, the team that's played a game versus a team that's not played a game so far. LA kind of pounced on Vegas early, maybe because they had a little more rhythm with a game under their belt. Vegas came out slow, not having played yet. But boy, oh boy, when Vegas got it cranked up, they took advantage of some lack of discipline from the Kings. What else is new? That's 2 games in a row. They're in the penalty box. Way too much, LA. And Vegas made them pay for it. What a night for Pavel Dorofeyev getting the hat trick for Vegas. What a night for our first look at this new look top line of Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, and Ivan Barbashev, who ended up getting on the board, cashing Perlo's bargain bin special. Did a piece of the Barbashev to score. I think Alex did too. I mean, it was just a good bet with him on the top line. No question about it. He's going to be undervalued as long as he keeps playing with Eichel and Marner. And it looked like they had finally put the Kings away up 5-3, but then a lapse with the power play, turnover at the blue line. Kings take advantage of it, make it 5-4 with Trevor Moore's goal. And then, they end up tying it just right after that, 5-5. So a 2-minute lapse and falling asleep with a 5-3 lead, and it cost Vegas, and they have to go to overtime. And sure enough, a shootout, and the Kings win in the shootout, 6-5. Adin Hill's got to step it up too. I was expecting him to have a better season this year, but that was not a pretty first performance from him in net, and they're going to need more from Adin Hill than that last night. You got to be able to shut that door when you're up 5-3. So credit to the Kings, on a back-to-back, pulling that one out. I'd argue that was more Vegas finding a way to lose rather than the Kings finding a way to win, but you still got to give LA credit. They dug in and they ended up finding a way to win that game. And that was a great result though. And that's why I took Vegas team total over. I was a little leery of taking them, puck line and regulation and all that, just because I did think LA could score. We went with team total only with Vegas, over 3.5. We had the over bifecta. The best bet was the full game over with the Kings and the Golden Knights. So that's 2-0 for me with best bets on the show to start the season. So we're off and running in a positive direction with Ice Guys Show best bets to begin the year. Alex, your thoughts on what we saw on Wednesday?
Yeah, like I said, some exciting games late. Not the best finish for me personally. I wanted Vegas to win that game in regulation, but definitely, like you said, just a good back and forth battle and a good win for the Kings. Right, it was such a tough opening night loss. To be able to rebound back, and especially rebound back from being down 2 goals in that game on the road, that's something that they really need. They need those kind of wins. They need victories like that to move themselves along and like I said, it was funny seeing Brandt Clark playing well, crashing the net, getting that goal. And I saw Greg Wyshynski tweet to give Brandt Clark all the ice time. And he goes, yeah, where the hell were you? And where was everybody tweeting that out during the playoffs when he really could have been shining?
Yeah, where was Jim Miller, that idiot, giving him that ice time?
Exactly, yeah. 2 minutes 50 seconds in one game. So I just thought that was funny to see him be a catalyst in this. And like I said, you're going to need him all year long. You're going to need those guys to step up and deliver if the Kings are going to be back near the top in that Pacific Division. And like I said, Adin Hill's got to play better. It's one game, of course. Like you said, he's going to have clunkers throughout the season, but you got to have a better effort, especially when having the lead. You got to keep your team in the game and shut things down. And when we talk about the importance of goalies stealing victories for their teams, look no further than Calgary and Dustin Wolf. Even though they got out to that 3-0 lead, Edmonton did. He was just solid the rest of the way, and especially in the shootout. The overtime in the shootout, he was making some 10-bell saves, and that's the power of a Dustin Wolf. Even in a game where he looked shaky early, he can find his form late and get you back into it. And that's something you have to remember when looking at Calgary down a goal, down 2 goals, and heading into a second or third period for live betting purposes. This is a team that will be dangerous, especially. And they're doing this against Edmonton, right? And Edmonton's still one of the best teams in the West. We'll definitely be able to take advantage of them being down a goal against the middle of the road team in the middle of the season. So that's something that I made a note on. Once again, Calgary is going to be that resilient, pesky bunch, especially if Wolf is playing well late. And if you see him getting better after giving up the odd shaky goal early, which seems to be a Calgary thing, like we said there with Jacob Markstrom too, in his days there with the Flames. But you see him give up a shaky goal and then all of a sudden kind of correct things in that first period, you can make adjustments and have some live betting success potentially with Calgary and Dustin Wolf.
No doubt, no doubt. And I did have a small bet on Calgary, plus 192. And there's a small bet compared to the stuff I had with the Vegas game, but still great to cash out. It was just, not so much bullish on Calgary, bullish on the price that bullish on betting against Edmonton, laying the price they were. Because that was, a little astronomical to me, minus 220, given their early season struggles. So it was great to see Calgary come back. So getting that underdog winner with the Flames was great. Speaking of underdog winners, it's a great segue into this massive Thursday card. I think there's some good underdogs on this card, a handful of them, at least a good few. And one of them is the first game we're going to talk about, Chicago and Boston. We've got Boston minus 160, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. Bruins on a back-to-back after a win in Washington last night. Credit to Jeremy Swayman. He played well. He's battling for a roster spot, too, with the USA Olympic team. So he's going to be certainly amped up to try to show what he can provide. And he certainly looked better than he did at any point last year in what was a tumultuous season for him with the Bruins. And the Bruins played a good defensive style, and I knew they would. That Marco Sturm's going to bring that. He was a good defensive forward in his playing days. He's going to try to bring that structure, bring that defensive mindset here with him to the Boston Bruins. And night one, it worked out well. Will it work out as well at night two, back-to-back, against a very, fast, energetic, capable Chicago team? And we saw Chicago's transition game look very good. Even Florida in the victory against Chicago Tuesday night was talking about how impressed they were with the transition attack of the Chicago Blackhawks in that game, despite beating the Chicago 3-2 in that game. And I saw it. I saw Frank Nazar looked awesome, 2 points in that game. I like Sam Rinzel. Looked like a polished young blue liner back there for the Chicago Blackhawks. So yes, very impressed with Sam Rinzel on Tuesday night as well. And of course, Connor Bedard, even though he didn't get on the score sheet, I thought he looked dangerous. He looked a lot more confident. He hit the crossbar early in that game against Sergei Bobrovsky. Otherwise, he could have found the back of the net there. So a lot of positives to me for Chicago, even though they lost that game. Now, they have to tilt the ice a little more than they did against Florida. You can't be in your own end nearly as much, but a lot of times they were able to at least withstand Florida's pressure and be able to, put out the fires when Florida had the puck for extended time in the offensive zone. The good news here for the Chicago Blackhawks tonight is the return of Vlasic. Alex Vlasic is going to be back in the lineup. Remember, he missed the season opener against the Florida Panthers, and this is another one of those very young, promising, up-and-coming blue liners, one of many that the Blackhawks have, that he will be in the lineup for them. It will be Arvid Soderblom in net for Chicago. Not our favorite goalie by any stretch, but he's a guy that in glimpses last year, he'd give you a 36 save game out of nowhere every now and then. Hopefully tonight's one of those nights. And this is not so much, I love Soderblom. He's going up against a goalie he can beat in Jonas Korpisalo, because Jonas Korpisalo had a very mediocre season last year with Boston. I don't necessarily trust him in net, especially in this kind of price range. And I like Chicago's got a little rest advantage off a loss. And then on the flip side, you counter that. You got Boston on a back-to-back off a very satisfying win. I think Chicago's live to maybe take down the Bruins tonight. So Chicago for me, plus 140 in this game. Alex, Blackhawks, Bruins.
So I grabbed Chicago plus 124 a few weeks ago when more lines were available. And that was just predicated on I felt like they would have a decent battle, if not win, in Florida. Of course, they ended up losing that game, but they did play well and played tough. And they'd be able to kind of take that momentum into a weaker team in Boston. So now at plus 140, still endorse that, even with Soderblom in net. Now, if you haven't watched this show in a couple years, and you're wondering where we're talking about Arvid Soderblom, you're going to hear us talk about him often as he gets starts for the Blackhawks. This is a goaltender who went from looking like a popcorn vendor to a minor league goaltender to last year having some flashes of brilliance and looking like a capable NHL backup. He has made leaps and bounds in his game each and every year, despite looking dreadful for the majority of his career with the Hawks. And now you wonder, okay, he has the 2-year contract extension. Knight played well, made some big saves, but in Soderblom's mind and in the mind of the Hawks, he's still, a 1B option. Now, I don't see it that way, and I think most Hawks fans don't see it that way. But in his case, he's going to take advantage of every opportunity he has between the pipes. And this is a Boston team that certainly won't be cycling as heavy as Florida, won't be shooting as often and heavy as Florida. And now you bring Alex Vlasic back as well. And like I said, Renzel looked great. The defense looked great against Florida. So with a little less offensive punch in Boston, I trust in this game and that Soderblom can, give a decent start tonight. I like the Hawks here. Like I said, I grabbed plus 124. By all means, grab the better price at plus 140. I will be on the over trifecta in game. So that's first period over, full game over, and both teams will score in the first period. But I'm waiting for all of those live. I'd like to get plus 180 or maybe close to 2-1 for that both teams to score. I want plus money for the over 1.5, and I'm looking for 5.5 laying a price rather than just 6 even money. I'd rather get 5.5 laying $1.25. So that's my attack for in game. And then 2 goal props I have: Ryan Donato anytime goal, which is bargain bin price at DraftKings. He's plus 340. He's like 260, 270 everywhere else. So if you have DK, definitely grab him there. And also Frank Nazar, plus 260, plus 270. We're not going to get him at bargain bin range too often, but I do like him to score once again. Like you said, he looked great with the 2 points last night against Florida.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going with goal and assist for Nazar. I mean, I'm just rocking and rolling with that until he stops producing. And this goes back to last year, this insanely hot streak that he's on right now offensively. And he carried that over into the Florida season opener with a goal and an assist in that game, playing with Teravainen and Bertuzzi. There might be some value with Colton Dach. I'm seeing him paired with Bedard and Burakovsky here tonight in this game. So there we go. That's the kind of stuff I like to see. Colton Dach here, Kirby's brother, getting the opportunity on the top line here for the Hawks, and plus 600 at DraftKings for him to sign me up. At that position, left wing side, top line, got to look toward Colton.
And he had a couple of good looks and chances in the Florida game too. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Even Burakovsky's undervalued too. Now I like Dach more because the price is better, but you can get Burakovsky plus 460. On the
Doc's been a little more noticeable. I want Burakovsky to be more noticeable. He was absent in preseason, in my opinion, the couple of games I watched. So
yeah, I agree. Not only the better price, but I think a greater threat to score.
Yeah,
Colton Dach on that top line. So I agree with both of those. Boston, I'd look at the usual suspects. We mentioned some of these Boston. Geeky is always worth a look. Maybe Zacha as well in this game. You do expect Boston to chip in something offensively. I don't think Chicago's going to walk in there and shut them out, but definitely could see them chipping in a little bit.
I like what Perlo had yesterday. Geeky and Pasternak, alternate goal and assist parlay.
Oh, I should point out, this is my bad. I'm making it sound like I'm only on Chicago money line. It's a split for me between money line and over 2.5 team total on Chicago, which is minus 118. Pretty good price, minus 118 for that Chicago team total, over 2.5. So I split it between money line and team total on Chicago. All right, New York Rangers, Buffalo Sabres. Rangers minus 115, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. I'm going to take a small bet here, Rangers first period money line. First period. And John Massey has mentioned this in our group chat, and I'm in agreement with the sentiment behind his thinking. He is taking all first period money lines tonight involving teams that have a game under their belt facing a team that has not played yet. So that's, again, factoring in, okay, first 20 minutes, we got a team that's got a game under their belt. They're in greater rhythm, more synchronicity. Just look like they're in more traction out there early in the game against a team that hasn't played. Hell, if you bought into that angle last night in the Vegas-Los Angeles game, you were a winner because LA had played a game, Vegas had not played a game, and LA won that first period over Vegas last night. So if you buy into that angle, it makes sense. So that's not the only reason. You expect after getting shut out at home by the lowly Pittsburgh Penguins that the Rangers will show a little something here, especially early. Now, I'm only going to go first period money line because there's something about the Rangers that was so bad from them against Pittsburgh the other night that I'm not fully trustworthy of them winning the hockey game. I'm buying into the fact they've got the game under their belt. Buffalo doesn't, to maybe have the advantage in the first 20. But, man, that was ugly from the Rangers, and I'm not rushing to trust them for the full game here against Buffalo here in their home opener. The problem for the Sabres is coming into the year, they suffered some attrition in training camp. Owen Powers on IR to begin the season. Michael Kesselring, who was a big piece in that JJ Paterka trade with Utah, he looks like actually, I beg your pardon. It looks like Powers in. Powers in here for this game for Buffalo. So that's good. Although he's got to up his play. I should point that out. Yeah, it's nice that he's going to play tonight for the Sabres. But he's got to really step it up in front of his own net. Like last year, he was out muscled. He was not really taking out players in front of the net, not physical enough, not clearing the front of the net to make life easier on his goaltender. Those are the things where Owen Powers got to be better. You're a big guy. You've got a decent amount of height to you. You definitely should be able to do a better job than that. So we'll see if he can have a bounce back year, because I don't think any Sabre fan was real thrilled with his season last year for them. Up front, it looks like Zach Benson was a questionable for this game for the Buffalo Sabres. We'll have to see. It might be a game-time decision for him. They're actually relatively healthy out front. A lot of their injuries are minor. Carson Meyer, Jordan Greenway. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is, of course, starting the year out. So Alex Lyon will get the start here for the Buffalo Sabres. Of course, they got him in the offseason. This is our first shot, Alex. I mentioned I'm on Rangers first period money line small, but this is our first shot to test out the system play. And you guys know what the system play is. A team off a shutout loss, what do? We bet for over by Fecta. First period over and full game over, and I will do precisely that here. So first period over 1.5 minus 120 and over 6 for the full game. This is our first chance this season on an angle that was excellent pre-Four Nations last year. If you remember, this off a shutout loss over by Fecta was outstanding from like October to February. Then we hit Four Nations, and that angle really did not do well after Four Nations down the stretch of the regular season. But in the early part of the year, this betting angle of overs, first period and full game for teams off a shutout loss was great. So we'll put it to the test here with Rangers and Sabres tonight, with Rangers off the shutout loss to the Penguins in their first game. Alex, what do you think here, Rangers, Sabres?
So I'm betting Rangers to score first goal in first period, plus 125 at FanDuel, and then waiting for the first period over in game to drop minus 135, 140. I can wait for it to drop, a little bit closer to pick 'em range. And I'm also on Rangers. I grabbed minus 114 money line. It was just kind of predicated too on the Sabres with their goaltending, like I said, injury situation, having blue liners made up, but also to go in with Alex Lyon as your starter. It's just not really something I'm looking to back. Certainly more to fade, especially against the Rangers. 7 career games, he's 2-4 with a 3.35 goals against and an 8.95 save percentage. So he has struggled against this Ranger team, and I think the Rangers are going to come out hot and frustrated after that game they played. Just absolutely laid an egg at home against Pittsburgh. So I like them to score first. I like first period over in game, and I like the Rangers to get the victory.
Montreal, Detroit. We've got Detroit minus 135, home favorite, 6 the total here in this game. Oh, by the way, just quickly on props here, I forgot to mention a couple. Josh Norris was great in the preseason, so goal and an assist prop for him. Juraj Kulik on the second line center spot, there's some value as well. Ryan McLeod had a great year, and I'm going to sprinkle on Josh Doan for Buffalo just because I thought he's going to be a nice addition for this team. For the Rangers, I'm going to go back to the well with Will Cooley here tonight, playing on the top line, it looks like, with JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad. All right, Montreal, Detroit, as we mentioned. I'm going to go Montreal first period, full game money line split. This is another one of these deals where we've got Montreal having played a game last night in Toronto, albeit a loss 5-2 to the Leafs, but they have a game under their belt. Detroit hasn't played yet. Montreal off a loss, so the focus should be there here for this game as well. So I like the first period full game money line split with Montreal in this game. And I have no qualms, no worries or hesitation at all to back them with Jakub Dobeš in net. Jakub Dobeš played better than Sam Montembeault in the preseason. If anyone watched preseason hockey with the Habs, he played better than Sam Montembeault. So I have no issues trusting Montreal to be competitive and or win games when Dobeš is in net. This will be the Red Wings' debut of John Gibson. I think a goalie that has the potential, if he stays healthy, to give Detroit some of their best goaltending in years. But again, first game, let's see it. With a team that hasn't played yet, obviously a game. So I think Montreal's got some value in this spot. They've actually played Detroit very well in recent meetings as well. This has been a Habs-dominated recent series between these two teams. When you look at it, Montreal won 3 of the 4 meetings last year versus Detroit between these two teams. So I will go with the Montreal split bet between the first period money line and the full game money line. And Jonathan, I'm definitely remember that. We talked about it last year. But this is a new season, so does it carry over? We'll have to see. But if he does give up the first goal tonight against Detroit, then it is something we're going to maybe have to keep in mind and start backing again as the opposing team to score the first goal when Jakub Dobeš is in net. Because as Jonathan has mentioned, we've mentioned this last year throughout the back half of the season, Dobeš given up the first goal in 15 of his last 17 appearances last year. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on going into this game. Regardless, I'm on the Habs in a split between first period and full game. Alex, what do you think here? Canadians, Red Wings.
Yeah, I will be betting on Detroit to score first goal in first period, plus 115. And something to note about Jakub Dobeš, and this was already said by Martin St. Louis, he's going to get the second of back-to-backs whenever it's Montembeault getting the first. So we're going to see, for at least there's 17 back-to-backs, I think, for the Habs this year. We're going to see them go back and forth. So make that note already, and that's something, and I'll even make a note when I update the goalie charts tonight. But they will be flip-flopping on back-to-backs. So I love that we have that, where we've got some coaches who we'll talk about later who aren't sharing who their goalies are until, maybe an hour before game time, to have a guy saying we're going to be doing that for back-to-backs already. It makes things a lot easier. But we'll see if that trend continues. So at plus 115, I will take a shot with Detroit to get the first goal in the first period. That's the only thing I like pregame. Everything else I'll look for live.
I should have been on Zach Bolduc to score last night. I wasn't, just because, he was a little bit banged up going into that. Sure enough, he scored one of the 2 goals for Montreal. I will not make that mistake tonight. I will be on Zach Bolduc to score for the Montreal Canadiens. I love that move, getting him in that trade with St. Louis in the offseason for sure. Oliver Kapanen, keep an eye on him. That was a great call by Alex. Alex had it on his Patreon card.
Plus 700.
Yesterday. Oliver Kapanen scored a shorty in the opening period last night against Toronto, and he's going to be good on that penalty kill. You're right. He's got the ability to, counterattack. He's got the ability to, with his speed, to make a difference. And we certainly saw that last night.
And this is good value with him being a second line center. I thought 700 was a crazy price in itself. But yeah, like you said, the fact that he shows that kind of flash on the penalty kill, definitely some worthy values taking shots with him.
Casper, the friendly betting ghost. That is my favorite prop on the Detroit side. We took his props a ton last year, and were the beneficiary of it. Emmett Finney is up with Lucas Raymond and Dylan Larkin, from what I see. So there could be a little value on him tonight if he's indeed in that position. Plus 420 for Emmett Finney to score a goal tonight for the Detroit Red Wings. But the one I like the most is, as I mentioned, our old friend Casper, the friendly betting ghost, Marco Casper, upwards of plus 320 to find the back of the net here tonight for the Detroit Red Wings, which is something he did quite a bit down the stretch last year for them. All right, next up, we've got Ottawa, Tampa Bay. The Lightning minus 170, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. Big card like this, even this guy, the high volume king, has to have a game on the card that he doesn't really love, and this would be one of those games. I tried to make a case for Ottawa. They didn't play well in Tampa last year, though. And part of me does think, after the great season, the renaissance last year with Travis Green, maybe there's a slow start this year, potentially, for the Ottawa Senators. The problem with backing Tampa is they're very banged up coming into this game, and there's still, I think, some questions leading right up until puck drop. Who's going to be in the lineup? Nick Paul's on IR for the Lightning. Zemgus Girgensson is on IR for the Lightning. Brandon Hagel, of course, in that incident with Florida in the preseason. Is he going to be able to suit up for them tonight? The latest indication with that is that he is game time decision. Eric Chernak, same thing. Victor Hedman, J.J. Moser on the blue line. This is a bit of a ravaged bunch to start the year, the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we're going to have to see who's going to end up in between, or in the lineup tonight for them for this very first game. So I definitely think there's a little bit of value in this price, and some of these injury, and due to the fact there's some injury concerns with the Lightning, I would lean Ottawa, but I think I'm going to wait, see how this game starts, maybe get involved live, but it's just a lean pregame to the Ottawa side for me at plus 150, but no bet as of now. Alex, what do you think? Sends the Lightning.
Yeah, I grabbed the draw at plus 340 at FanDuel. Let's shop around for best price. I'm seeing anywhere between 320 to 340. But like I said, with a banged up Lightning team, and this is an Ottawa team, and I'm sure they're aware that they didn't play well in Tampa. And you got to beat your division opponents, especially if you want to improve on what was last year. And just, you don't want to just sneak into the playoffs. You want to get in firmly. These are the games you got to win. These are 2 points they need. So I do lean toward Ottawa, but I'm going to grab that draw. I think this could be a tight game.
All right, good stuff. The draw. We love our draw. I don't have the draw season shirt on today, but definitely, like I said, we love our draws, and I might even dabble in that a little bit. I could see this maybe being a pretty close competitive game when it's all said.
And we've seen sleepy starts, for the home opener angle hasn't mean shit so far in the first couple of nights. Like, we've seen teams sleepwalk through their first games at home. Wouldn't shock me if Tampa Bay maybe does that and Ottawa can get on the board early.
Yeah, no question. I think there's definitely they could be one of those two. Yeah, Ottawa to score a goal, and it's not a great price. It's too pricey because you need a bigger underdog to be taking a team.
Something live. It's a good live look though.
Yeah, absolutely. If you if you don't have Ottawa scoring, halfway through the first period, or even 5, 6, 8 minutes into the first period, you're then going to get a bettable price. Close to even money on Ottawa to score, if not plus money on Ottawa to score in the first period. So that might be the approach I look at, especially if they have a good start in this game. There are a couple props that I do like in this game. Yes, and Robert Karlsson's onto one of them. Yes, I think he's going to have a huge year offensively, Shane Parlay Pinto. I really do. I thought he came on strong last year. He had a pretty good preseason this year. So Shane Pinto to find the back of the net is worth a look. I'm going to take a couple shots too with Amadio and Zetterlund on the right wing side in the top 6 for Ottawa in this game tonight. I think there's some value there as far as their props are concerned. For Tampa Bay, the one that stands out to me, a little value here for sure tonight, is Gage Gonsalves. Second line, like the way he kind of chipped in offensively down the stretch last year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Getting an opportunity to play alongside Cirelli, and it would also be Hagel if Hagel plays tonight for Tampa Bay, but that has the potential to be a good second line. And yeah, Jake Sanderson assist or power play point, I don't mind that. I think Jake Sanderson is going to, I actually ended up adding a Jake Sanderson Norris trophy at 100 to 1 because I think he's got that potential to be that Werenski from last year for Columbus. That just comes out of nowhere and ends up having a big offensive season from the blue line. We know he's very good defensively, but I think Jake Sanderson has that potential in him for Ottawa. So I thought 100 to 1 was worth that shot there for the Norris for him. All right, Philadelphia, Florida. Florida minus 220, home favorites, 5.5 the total. No surprise, by the way, I forgot to mention Allmark and Vasilevsky going to be the goaltending matchup there, Ottawa, Tampa. For this game, Philadelphia, Florida, it'll be Dan Vladar making his Flyers debut in net for Rick Tocchet in his Flyers coaching debut. And, of course, Sergei Bobrovsky back in net for Florida in this game. This is another one where Rick Tocchet's debut. Rick Tocchet has a penchant of his team starting pretty well. We remember Vancouver a couple years ago, the strong start they had. Florida still, a credit to them, beat Chicago, and they're always capable of winning even without a Barkov, even without a Tkachuk. But to me, the Flyers can be live in this game. I think they'll have a great effort in Rick Tocchet's debut, and I'm going to grab the big plus price Flyer. No pun. Okay, they're pun intended. I can't even trick people into thinking that was not an intentional pun right there. But yeah, I will take a Flyer on Philadelphia here at plus 180 in this spot tonight. Alex, what do you think? Flyers, Panthers?
Yeah, I like the over bifect in this one. I'm going first period over minus 118 at FanDuel and get that over 5.5. Still at a couple of spots. Like I said, this is a Florida team. There was they were hanging around with Chicago, then they pulled away late. I wouldn't be shocked, like I said, if Philly can come out early, kind of hit them in the mouth a little bit, and then wake them up, and we see some goals traded back and forth. So definitely liking goals in this one. Over bifecta for me.
All right, over bifecta for Alex in this one. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out here. I wish you luck with it. I'm worried that they try to transition into defensive-minded team a little bit, the Flyers under Tocchet. We'll see. But like I said, I definitely think this team tonight will see a good effort. Dan Vladar, I still have visions of Dan Vladar when he was with Calgary last year. One of his absolute ridiculous, redonkulous games last year was against Florida. I'll never forget that game, Alex. It was Calgary at Florida, and this guy looked like Marty Brodeur in that game against the Panthers, Dan Vladar. I couldn't believe the game. Like, he was just insane how good he was against the Panthers, that one start he had for Calgary last year. It was one of the best single-game goaltending performances of the season for any team. And Vladar had it against this Florida team. As far as props, Dvorak and Mishkov are on the top line. I think there's value. Of course, Dvorak, former member of the Montreal Canadiens, now with Philadelphia. Looks like he's going to be on the top line for them. There's probably value there. Zegras in his Flyers debut. That should give them a little offensive punch. We have Tyson Forster, Bobby Brink. These are guys that on the third line can chip in, and Noah Cates as well can chip in some offense for you. Now, they do have some injuries on the back end, Cam York and Rasmus Ristolainen to begin the year, but Noah Juleson and Igor Zamula, Jamie Drysdale, Sanheim, Steeler on the back end. And like I said, I think why I know Ersson, Nick, is because I think Rick Tocchet likes Dan Vladar. And to me, when Ersson has his best game, he's really good. But he's had some bumps in the road, too. He's had some struggles. He's had some bad starts. And to me, there's been a lot of variance with Ersson. And so when Ersson's kind of having that up and down, erratic style type of play, that means the gap between Ersson and Vladar is probably not as big as you would think.
Yeah, they're the two closest goalies on my chart. I think it's a 5-cent difference between 5 or 10-cent difference between them. It's not much.
Yeah, I would not be in a situation like there's some teams where they go from the starting goalie to the backup, and I want no part of the backup. This is not one of those situations. I think they're interchangeable. If I liked Philadelphia in a game, if Tocchet says I'm going with Ersson instead of Vladar, it wouldn't take me off Philadelphia. If Tocchet says I'm going to Vladar instead of Ersson, it wouldn't take me off Philadelphia. So I would be comfortable back. If I wanted to take Philadelphia in a certain game against a certain opponent, the difference between Vladar and Ersson would not keep me off back in the Flyers. So it speaks to what Alex just said, too, that I don't think it's a huge gap right now between those two goaltenders. Should be a good game. Good test. Don't forget, too, with Torts last year, it's kind of what also gravitated me toward taking a shot with Philadelphia tonight. They played Florida damn tough last year, the Philadelphia Flyers. You can't explain it. Some teams just have a tougher time with certain opponents. And Florida had their hands full in every game last year, head-to-head. Against the Philadelphia Flyers. Keep that in mind.
And a reminder, too, if you didn't watch the Flyers season preview, I have over 10.5 points in October. So I definitely would love to start off with 2 points here.
Yeah, no doubt. So I think they're live. I think they're worth a shot at this price, tonight. All right, next up, we've got New York Islanders, Pittsburgh Penguins. We've got the Islanders minus 140, road favorites. The total here sitting at 5.5, juice to the over in this one. There's no chance I'm laying minus 140 on the road with the Islanders, especially after how impressive Pittsburgh was in their debut, shutting out the Rangers. Dan Muse winning his head coaching debut. And you do have the first, again, team with the first game under their belt versus a team that hasn't played. So I did sprinkle on Penguins' first period money line, but that's it. It's a small bet, and I'm not trusting them fully for the full game. This is just that angle of, hey, teams played a game versus a team that hasn't. Here's the thing with the total. I'm worried Pittsburgh's really going to be a strong under team moving forward. They really preach defensive structure and discipline and really tightening things up in their own zone. Dan Muse was really all about that throughout preseason and training camp, and we saw it on full display against the Rangers. That was a dead nuts under. Didn't even come close to going over the total in that game. But here's the problem. Was that bad Rangers or really good Penguins defense? I think it was just a combination of both. I think the Rangers' offensive execution was terrible the other night. I think this could be a little bit more challenging here against the Islanders. And when you flip it around to the Islanders against the Penguins, we know the Islanders haven't been the same defensive team the last few years. Ilya Sorokin will be in net. And also Pittsburgh had Artur Shilovs for that great shutout performance against the Rangers, and he was a big part of it. And now you go to Tristan Jarry, who to me is inferior at the moment to Artur Shilovs. based on Tristan Jarry's recent play over the last couple of years. We're talking about a goalie that had a .903 save percentage, 2.91 goals against 2 years ago, much worse last year, .892 save percentage, 3.1 goals against. So I think it's while I believe they're going to try to play lower scoring hockey, Pittsburgh, I don't trust it as much to be successful when they have Jarry in between the pipes compared to Arturs Shilovs. And I looked at, we've talked about this a lot with the Islanders Penguins too on this show last year. For some reason, when certain teams go head to head, there's goals. And that's been the case with Islanders Penguins. I mean, it's just been a lot of overs. So with this total being offered at 5.5, I took over 5.5 here, -120, Islanders and Penguins. Alex, what do you think here? Isles Pens.
I took a small shot with the draw plus 330 and a small shot with Sidney Crosby to score the winner. So game to reach overtime and OT goal scorer at 55-1. Both of those at FanDuel.
Yeah, at 5.5, I'll bank on the series history, Islanders Penguins, and take a shot with the over. And like I said, Sorokin, I agree with Seabills. Sorokin, is always saying he's underrated. Last year he struggled, so we'll see if he bounces back. Yeah, the Thailanders, bust out the Thailanders shirt. I do think I might get in on this draw too. I could see this being overtime. You're right. With Islanders Penguins,
especially if the Penguins are trying to play more defense.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully not as much defense tonight. Give me a 3-3 overtime game. I'll be happy. But yeah, Islanders Pens over. Little sprinkle on the Penguins first period money line using that angle of they've played, Islanders haven't. And of course, the draw. We'll sprinkle on that here as well in this game. All right, next up, I didn't touch any player props here. There's nothing that really stands out for me here as far as player props are concerned. I want to see what the Islanders look like before I start betting them as far as player props. All right, New Jersey and Carolina. This is one of a couple games tonight on the card where we have a playoff rematch from last year. Of course, these teams met in the first round, and New Jersey was banged up, beaten up to shit, and they just really were ill-equipped to compete with the Carolina Hurricanes in that series. And now we've got Carolina -170, home favorites in this game. The total sitting at 5.5 across the board. Now it's an overrated, overvalued angle with the playoff revenge, in my opinion, here for New Jersey. Certainly they're going to want to play well. For its first game of the year, they lost in the playoffs to Carolina. But at the end of the day, Carolina is actually not going to be -170 this cheap at home too often. I'm actually on Carolina -1 at -1 or -105 is the price on that. So Carolina puck line -1 here in this game. They've also dominated New Jersey here in this building. Lenovo Center has not been kind to the New Jersey Devils, regular season or playoffs last year. This was a tough place for the Devils. And we know this is my Eastern Conference champion and Stanley Cup champion pick, Carolina. It took a while for me to come around to taking them as my Stanley Cup champion pick, but I'm a little bit more of a believer in Frederik Andersen now because he did have a solid playoff. I don't think you can fault him for losing against Florida. I thought he still played pretty well. And this roster outside of Andersen is very good. The blue line is still rock solid, led by Jacob Slavin. You mentioned K'Andre Miller. A change of scenery is probably going to help him and lead to better things for him with this blue line. And then you round it out with the likes of Sean Walker, Jalen Chatfield. I can't wait for a full season of Alexander Nikishin. We saw just in little glimpses how good he's going to be in the playoffs last year. I love the Nikolai Ehlers addition. I think Ehlers, Aho, and Jarvis will be in that conversation with Vegas and a few other teams for one of the better top lines in the NHL. I think there's that potential for the Ehlers, Aho, Jarvis line. Svechnikov, Stankoven, he was great with Carolina after they got him from Dallas. Jackson Blake, and then of course you got the bottom six: Carrier, Stahl, Martinuk, Taylor Hall on a fourth line tells you all you need to know. And Rod Brindamore, hallelujah, my friend, you're finally smelling the coffee here right now, smelling the roses. At this point in time, you're finally figuring it out. Yes, Barry Kotkaniemi should be your fourth line center, not your second line center. So well done, Rod Brindamore, on that. That is fantastic. The less we see of that guy, the better for the Carolina Hurricanes. So good job. Aho, Stankoven, Stahl, Kotkaniemi in that order as far as the centers for Carolina. I like their lineup. I do. I think they have a great lineup. Great up front. The blue line is terrific, rock solid. Anderson, I've got a little bit more positive things to say about him based on his playoff performance and overall season last year. So I will take that. And I think New Jersey's going to be good and better this year, but don't like them in this spot. I think Carolina's still better, and they're tough to beat at home, and they've owned New Jersey at home. So Carolina -1 for me. A few props I like, but first, Alex, what do you think? New Jersey, Carolina.
Yeah, this is one I'm going to wait and probably dabble in live. With this being a big card, having a lot, this is one where I was kind of looking at passing, but I lean with Carolina. And like you said, playoff revenge, and these being division rivals, it could be a little animosity. And it wouldn't shock me if it's a little physical early and maybe we see some penalties. Maybe that opens the game up and we can see some scoring chances. So this is one I want to wait for live.
There you go. Good stuff. Yeah, as far as props, there are props on both sides because I do think New Jersey, it's not easy to score against Carolina in this building when they lock things down defensively, but there's a couple of value shots. Dawson Mercer on the second line with Hischier and Meyer. With Hughes and Bratt, I'm seeing Evgeny Dodonov up there tonight on that top line. So Evgeny Dodonov, most recently with the Dallas Stars, that's great value. If Sheldon Keefe indeed is going to have him on that left wing side, plus 550 for Evgeny Dodonov to score, playing alongside Hughes and Bratt on that likely top line configuration for the New Jersey Devils tonight. So that's definitely value that we have to take advantage of for sure tonight. And as for Carolina, Ehlers, Aho, Jarvis, if you want to get involved with any of those three, I wouldn't argue with that. But from a value standpoint, I think the value is Stankoven and Blake playing with Svechnikov. I think that's where I think Blake is going to have a really good offensive season. I think Stankoven has clearly shown from the very beginning that he got to Carolina that he's fit in here very nicely with this Hurricanes team and look comfortable. So Logan Stankoven as well, as far as props that I am interested in for the Carolina Hurricanes in this game. Bailey, good to see Bailey back again. Brett Pesce asking if he'll play. Yes, he is in. Brett Pesce. Seamus Casey and Johnny Kovacevic are the defensemen that are on IR. And Stefan Nason is the most impactful forward out to begin the season for the New Jersey Devils. They will miss him. I mean, we're all big fans of Stefan Nason. He is on IR for the New Jersey Devils to begin the year. All right, next up, we've got Minnesota and St. Louis. We got the Blues -125, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. You guys got to know which side I'm on here. It's got one of my favorite Western Conference bet on teams coming into the year. Now, Minnesota's played them tough. And this has been this has been a series where it's gone back and forth. It's not like St. Louis has dominated Minnesota, but St. Louis has been excellent on home ice in this building, going back to the end of last year. You remember how last year this Blues team just at home they didn't lose down the stretch of the regular season when they were making that push to get in the playoffs, and then they won every single home game in the first round against Winnipeg. They lost in 7, but they won every home game. They are a very good home team. I'm going to take them here -125. Very pro Blues. I'm pro Wild too. I think the Wild could be a little bit better and a little bit, than I think. But tonight they're just running up against a team I'm even higher on. So I like St. Louis here -125. They've been awesome on home ice, lights out, going back to last year. And I like this over at 5.5. This is another one where I'm buying into the recent series history, Alex, of Wild versus Blues, where it's been actually higher scoring games between these two teams, and we're only getting 5.5. I know the goaltending is capable. I'm expecting Gustafsson to get the start. What's trouble in you, Gus? What's trouble in Gus? Good to bring that back again. And Jordan Binnington for the St. Louis Blues, which is confirmed. We're just waiting on whether Gustafsson's going to be in net for Minnesota. Capable goalies, but hey, it's been Gustafsson and Binnington in most of these games recently between the Wild and Blues, and we've still been able to get to at least 6 goals between them. So, yeah, St. Louis -125, also over 5.5 for me here in this game as well. Alex, what do you think? Wild Blues?
Yeah, I like the Blues team total over 3.5. +145, so that's an alternate total. So that is widely available now. So I was just kind of shopping around checking, but +140, +145 with that team total over. There's a bargain bin spot that I really like with St. Louis here. And I think like I said, this is going to be a good back and forth game. Over by fact, I'll wait in game for because I'm seeing 5.5s at minus 125, 130. I'd like a little bit cheaper on that and certainly like to get plus money with the over in the first period too. And also want to see the pace early because we've seen with these Blues game and Wild games, slow start in the first period and then it explodes in the second and third. So this may be one where I jump on full game over in game first and then wait a little bit later and see for try and get that plus price for the first period.
Yeah, it's a good prop game. In this one, Rossi goal assist I like. Marcus Foligno, if you're going to put Marcus Foligno on the second line, I think he can chip in. He just has a knack sometimes. You give him these top 6 opportunities, he can chip in. And Vlad Tarasenko, here's the thing with the Wild. We think of them as the stodgy, plodding team that struggles to score goals half the time. I like their lineup a little bit more offensively going into this year. And keep in mind, this is a team that's without Zuccarello still to begin the year. But you got Kaprizov, Rossi, Boldy. It's a really good top line. Vladimir Tarasenko, he's very, very erratic, schizophrenic lately. And there's games sometimes you don't even notice him out there. But he's still a guy that can improve that top 6 a little bit for Minnesota. You've got, I think Ryan Hartman's a guy that can chip in. Liam Ogren, Yakov Trenin has been a guy back to his Nashville days that can chip in a little depth scoring. You've got more mobility on the back end now with Aziz Bouyem now part of this team regularly, as is, of course, the great Brock Faber. And plus, Jonas Brodin. What else is fucking new? Starting the year on the IR. Brodin, I'm shocked Spurgeon's healthy. Holy mackerel. Holy goodness. I'm shocked by that. Shocked. Yeah, right. Shocked. But actually, Jared Spurgeon, for a change, is not injured to begin the year. But both of them, throw them in the same box, Brodin and Spurgeon. These two guys just can't stay healthy for a full season. Now, I'm just waiting for that next time Spurgeon gets injured. But Brodin, the same thing, starting the year on the IR. And
broken toys in the attic, basically.
Yeah. And they miss him defensively. Brodin is really good in his own end for the Minnesota Wild. So, like I said, I think St. Louis scores and wins the game, but I think Minnesota gets some things going offensively too. So, St. Louis and over for me here in this game. And then for props on the St. Louis side, Dylan Holloway, of course. Holloway, if we bet on Holloway, take some time to celebrate. Absolutely. Great in the preseason. Dylan Holloway for the Blues, goal, assist. You can even go 2 points on Dylan Holloway and get a really good plus price on that. Worth a shot. Jimmy Snuggerud, my bet, not just pick, my bet to win the Calder Cup. I keep calling it Calder Cup, Calder Trophy for the St. Louis Blues. Calder Trophy at 11-1, 12-1 odds, and Jimmy Snuggerud goal, assist. Any props involving Jimmy Snuggerud here in this game tonight, I like that. That's not a bad angle there from Robert. Nick Bukestad, or as Don Cherry called him, Nick Ballstad at plus 500 from Blaine, Minnesota. Played for the Minnesota Wild, of course, now with the St. Louis Blues. And I'm going to dabble.
It always looks like good value at Bustad, and then he does absolutely fucking nothing. So
I get the angle, though. I do get the angle. Just tread lightly. A couple more depth guys I'm going to sprinkle on for the Blues. Pius Suter, I thought he had a good offensive year last year. Now a member of this St. Louis team, but I thought he did some nice things offensively last year with the Vancouver Canucks. 25-goal season for him. Pretty good. You got him on a third line. He's worth a shot. And Toropchenko on the fourth line. Toropchenko is definitely someone that I think on this fourth line for St. Louis, you're going to see there's games there. Oh, he scored again? Yeah, that's what Alexei Toropchenko, in my opinion, is capable of for the St. Louis Blues. So it's a good prop game there with Minnesota and St. Louis. All right, we move along to Columbus and Nashville. This opened with Nashville as a minus 135 favorite. It's barely even money right now. Tons of money pouring in on the road team here, the Jackets, in this game. Nashville now just minus 115, home favorites. Total here sitting at 6, shaded to the over in this game. How about this telling development from Dean Evison, Alex? Not Elvis Merzlikins starting this game tonight. Jet Greaves starting this game tonight. Now, apparently, according to people that follow the Jackets preseason, he didn't have a great preseason, Jet Greaves. I don't care. What I care about is the fact that he had a great regular season, the most pressure-packed games. He was put into the fire to start all those games for the Jackets down the stretch, and he almost got the Jackets into the playoffs. Greaves was excellent. They really gave Montreal a push down the stretch for that final playoff spot. And I think when you look at this particular game, I'm ready to trust Jet Greaves to show that, yeah, he wasn't great in the preseason, but he was great when the games mattered last year in the regular season down the stretch. And the numbers were off the charts for Jet Greaves. So I like the idea of him starting here. Nashville, I think there will be spots to back them. I've talked about how they feel like one of those teams where everybody was on their bandwagon last year, and now this year, everyone, coming off a bad year, people are pessimistic. That might be a time to jump on them. I just don't think it's tonight. I still see a team that lacks team speed, a team that is getting older with O'Reilly and Forsberg and, so many of these players up front that, have lost a little bit of a step at least. I don't think their blue line is as good as it's been in the past. We saw that last year for sure. Struggled with the power play, struggled on the penalty kill, struggled defensively. Other than Roman Josi, Brady Shea didn't have a great year last year. Well, he could bounce back, but I got to see it. And they got Justin Barron, Spencer Stastny, Adam Wilsby, who's the new face to the NHL here. Nick Hague is on IR. This was a guy they got from Vegas to improve them defensively, and he's not even available to start this season for Nashville. So that hurts them on the back end. And then UC Saros and useless Onanen. When he's in there, although it won't be him tonight. It'll be obviously UC Saros with this being the season opener. But nevertheless, I think Saros can still be good, but he looked like a goalie last year that he kind of didn't have that same ability to steal games as much. There were times 2 years ago, Alex, he was stealing some games for Nashville when they got badly outplayed and badly outshot. We didn't really see that much from him last year. It was not one of his better years. He's a smaller stature goalie. And you wonder if all the games, all the wear and tear of years and years of playing is going to build up on him in a negative fashion, because it kind of looked that way a little bit as far as what we saw from him last year. So I am part of the money move to Columbus. I think when I bet it was plus 110. It's moved even a little bit since then. But, yeah, I'm on the Jackets here. Alex, what do you think? Columbus, Nashville?
Well, I missed that money train, and this is a game that I was going to kind of pass anyway. Now, it's nice to see Greaves getting the start, and I did say in the Jackets preview that I would be looking to back Greaves and starts. But this is two teams that I really just want to see how they come out early. Like you said, Greaves didn't have the best preseason. Taking that with a little grain of salt, I'd like to see him. I'd rather him have good momentum going into the season, but it's fine. Like I said, overall, I think he's going to prove that he is worth his salt and certainly deserves to be at the NHL level. So lean toward Columbus. This is one that I'll be passing.
With that, I thought I was initially passing it too, but then I saw Greaves in net, and I decided, I'm going to jump on them. And I like them up front a lot. I think Sean Monahan props, Adam Fantilli props are worth a look, in my opinion. Both of those players here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they're both going to have really, really good seasons. The 1-2 centers for this Jackets team. What does Werenski have for an encore after a great year last year? Their blue line, they're starting to mold a blue line that has the potential to be the best six they've had in a long time. Werenski, Fabro, Provorov, Severson, Denton Mateychuk is the guy to keep an eye on. I keep mentioning his name every time we bring up Columbus because I think he's going to be a good one in this league. I really do. Denton Mateychuk. So, like I said, going to be interesting to see. And for the Predators, if they're going to bounce back, they need, obviously, Stamkos and Marchessault and some of these guys to have better seasons. I don't love their center ice. And I don't love the fact that Brady Martin he was good in preseason. He's obviously 5th overall. He's going to be a good player. But you're starting an 18-year-old kid as your top-line center. Brady Martin might be good in time, but I'm not sure I'm in love with that first game of the year necessarily. So that tells you that there's still some roster configuration issues at the moment with this Nashville Predators team. All right, next up as we continue along, we've got Dallas and Winnipeg. This is the other playoff rematch from last year. Of course, these teams met in the second round, and it was the Dallas Stars advancing. We have Dallas minus 115, road favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. This is a clear pass for me. I have not made a side or total bet in this game. I think Dallas is the better squad entering the year, but I'm not betting against Winnipeg at home in this price range with playoff redemption on their minds going into this one. And plus, Winnipeg, When do you often see them priced like this at home? Not very often. So it feels like good value with Winnipeg, but I just respect Dallas enough. We'll see how the Glenn Gulletson era gets underway. They are still banged up a little bit. No Sandberg on the blue line, no Perfetti on IR, no Lowry, of course. Adam Lowry still out to begin the season for the Winnipeg Jets. So a couple injuries there on their side. This should be a fun goaltending matchup tonight with Ottinger and Hellebuck. These are the top two goalies for Team USA going into the Olympics next winter. So, both of them are going to be wanting to make an impact here and put a good performance against the other up there tonight. There are a couple props I like, though. Sam Steele is up on the top line with Roope Hintz and Mikko Rantanen. If that is indeed accurate, and Glenn Gulletson rolls out Sam Steele on that top line, that is a phenomenal bet right there as far as value goes. And we know he can score. And we know how good he was in the playoffs for Dallas last year. Sam Steele was making it happen for them. So the opportunity to take props for him and get up to plus 750 for him to score a goal tonight when he's going to be up there on the top line, that's phenomenal value there with Steele alongside Roope, Hintz, and Mikko Rantanen. Blackwell with Duchesne and Seguin. So this is interesting. Glenn Gulletson, given some of his guys that normally play depth forward roles for this team, putting Steele with Hintz and Rantanen, putting Blackwell with Duchesne and Seguin, and Jason Robertson with Johnston and Maverick Bourque. Very interesting. We'll see how it goes. But Glenn Gulletson getting a little getting in the science lab, putting on the lab coat right now, and tinkering with this forward group. Now, part of that probably is because they don't have Jamie Benn as to why he's going to tinker with things. But like I said, very fascinated to see how it goes. Love the Dallas blue line, as you know. Lindell, Heiskanen, Harley, Lundqvist, Leon Bischel, Ilya Lyubushkin. It's outstanding, 1 through 6. This is a really good hockey game. Sometimes it's just good to say, you know what, don't have to have a ton of bets. I like some of those props I mentioned. I like Velarde on the Winnipeg side as far as props tonight. We mentioned him, and I like his season-long prop over goals. I'm going to sprinkle on that Nikita Chibrikov as well. He's going to be on the second line and Taves is playing, by the way. Jonathan Taves has been cleared, and he will make his Winnipeg Jets debut and his return to the National Hockey League for the first time in years. So excited to see that, in front of his home province there in Manitoba. That'll be a great moment, seeing him take the ice again. But there you go. A few props that I like. It's actually a good prop game, but nothing side or total for me in this one. But a great game to watch, obviously. Teams with history, teams that we expect to be good once again this year. Alex, what do you think? Dallas, Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's always a fun matchup. And like I said, first time we get to see them since that fantastic Game 6 finish where I cashed that 31-1 bet on the exact order of that series happening. Thanks again, Scott Arneal, for never pulling Hellebuck on the road. So now it's a little flipped, and I like Winnipeg in this game. I grabbed them a week ago at plus money. Now we're seeing, like I said, minus $1.05, minus $1.10. So I still lean with them as far as the side goes, but I like the draw even more. Plus 330. I think we see this to be a low and slow matchup, be it playoffs or regular season. 9 of the last 10 games going under the total. Like you said, guys, injuries on both sides as well. So I could see this being a kind of physical feeling out process of a game going a little bit past regulation. So give me the draw. I do have Jets in pocket as well. And also, let's go. Like I said, I'm looking at these overtime goal scorers. Let's go with Kyle Connor. New contract, plus 4,500 to get the game winner in overtime.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, good game. Looking forward to this one for sure here with the Stars and the Jets. And by the way, for under bettors, if you're interested in the under, how about 9-1 to the under in the last 10 between the Stars and the Jets? Very, very strong history of lower scoring games. So I wouldn't be shocked if it continues. And of course, you've got the USA storyline too for the Olympics. These are two goalies that they're essentially going head-to-head here, Ottinger and Hellebuck. And they're essentially not only going head-to-head tonight, they're going head-to-head to be the number one goalie for USA at the Winter Olympics. It's going to be either Ottinger or Hellebuck. One of those guys is going to be their number one goalie at the Olympics. So how do you try to prove to the USA management group and coaching staff that you should be the guy? Well, in games like this, when you're playing head-to-head, get the job done. That's how you prove it. So I definitely think it's Definitely going to be a game where we see both goalies try to rise to the occasion. All right, next up, we've got Utah and Colorado. Colorado minus 180 home favorite, 6.5 the total. By the way, none of these Utah-Colorado games, I went back and looked, none of them got to more than 6 goals. So be careful with the over is what I'm saying here in this game. I'm on the fence with this total, but last year, 5-1, 4-1, 4-1 were the final scores. All 3 of those games, Mammoth versus Avs, fell below. Well, it was the Utah Hockey Club last year, but Utah and Colorado fell under the total last year. I don't know if it was bad LA or good Colorado, but Colorado was really good against the Kings. I think you have to give Colorado a good amount of credit. You know who was also very good? The guy who's once again starting in net tonight for Colorado, Scott Wedgwood. I thought he played a heck of a game. He was really good. And this guy is such an underrated goalie right now. He, to me, we'll get Alex's thoughts. To me, there's not that big of drop off from Blackwood to Wedgwood right now for this Colorado Avalanche team. They can win games with Scott Wedgwood. They've won a bunch of games with him. So him starting in net, I have no qualms about that at all for the Avs. Karel Vejmelka has been announced as the starter. I got to admit, I'm a little bit concerned on the Utah side of things. Do have some injuries here to begin the year. Valimaki on the blue line, Alex Kerfoot on IR, Barrett Hayton's out to begin the year. Stenlund, one of their depth, fourth line players, but he's a pretty good one. He's not playing as well, so they got a little bit of a shuffle going on in the bottom 6. I love their top 6, obviously. Keller, McBain, Schmaltz, Dylan Gunther, Logan Cooley, JJ Paterka, the new addition from the Buffalo Sabres. Their blue line, Sergachev, Marino, Schmidt, Dursey, Cole, Simashev, who they really like as an up-and-comer on the blue line. Colorado was that impressive. I don't want to fade them. That's how good they looked against LA. But I'm not going to take Colorado either. At minus 180. So I do have one bet, though, in this game. Nothing on the side, nothing on the total. Totally neutral. Maybe we'll get involved live. But there is one bet that I love in this game, and it's a player prop. And if he scores goals at the clip, I think he will this year, you're not going to get this price for too much longer. Dylan Gunther, plus 236 to score a goal for the Utah Mammoth. I got to get used to saying that. Yes, I think it's a great price. This guy was lighting it up in the preseason this year for Utah. He was great in the regular season last year. He is going to be a guy capable of scoring 30, 40 goals for this team. And if he is that kind of offensive player this year for the Mammoth, he will not be, I will tell you that right now, he will not be plus 236 with his goal props in a few months if he starts popping in goals as I think he could. So I'm going to jump on the value now while it's there. Dylan Gunther plus 236 to find the back of the net tonight. Alex, what do you think here? Utah, Colorado.
It's funny because I like Colorado team total over 3.5. I grabbed minus $1.05 with that, but I'm going to grab that with you, tail you on that one with Dylan Gunther, because this is the time of year early in the season. Like I said, you have to grab value with certain goal scorers that just may not be there in a month or certainly 2 months from now. And, that's my thought process. We're grabbing Donato at that 340 with the Hawks. So I'm going to tail you on that one. But I like Colorado to get goals here. And this is one more than likely I'll end up trying to grab a 6 in game with an over. But team total for the Avs and Gunther to get a goal is the 2 plays I like.
All right, there you go. And Gunther goal, Colorado team total. Hey, there's Evan McLaren, a good friend of ours. He was on a couple of our betcasts. I think he's still overseas last I checked, but and a Penguins fan. Happy hockey season, everyone. Same to you, Evan. It's good to see you back with us here.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you back in the chat with us once again this season. All right, Calgary, Vancouver. Next up here, we've got Vancouver minus 210 home favorites, 5.5, 6 being the total. Here in this game. The Adam Foote era begins here with the Vancouver Canucks, his first game behind the bench for Vancouver. I'm dabbling. The only bet I have pregame here is I dabbled on Calgary first period money line. Again, it's that situation we've talked about throughout the show. You're backing a team that's got a game under their belt versus a team that hasn't played yet. I think that could be an advantage for Calgary in the first 20 minutes. Then they could, start to peter out. That was a taxing game just as far as how exhausting physically and emotionally and mentally it was. All that shootout that went 8 rounds deep against Edmonton last night. But I do think in the first 20 minutes, Calgary's worth a look at this price, that maybe Vancouver's a little bit flat-footed. Remember, brand new coaching staff, so maybe some tweaks in the system, tweaks in the lineup. You can never rule that out. But that's all I would want Calgary for, is the first 20 minutes, because you do have to factor in that they're likely, and not confirmed yet, but you would expect that Devin Cooley is going to be the starting goalie for them on a back-to-back. And this guy, he's made a handful of starts in the NHL in the past. With San Jose, he got into 6 games a couple of years ago. Numbers weren't good, though. .870 save percentage, 4.98 goals against average with the Sharks a couple of years ago. We'll see how he fares here. Now, he did spend last year with the Wranglers in the American Hockey League, Calgary Wranglers. Numbers were very good down there. 2.94 goals against, .905 save percentage. But like I said, can that translate to the NHL? We'll have to wait and see. If you're feeling, bold about this game, this could be one of these games where Calgary leads after the first period, but Vancouver wins the game. I could see something like that happening. And if you can put that in some kind of same game parlay, Calgary first period, Vancouver full game, money line, I think that might be worth a dabble tonight in this game, no doubt. So that's where I'm at. Just Calgary first period money line, though, pregame with this one. As far as the total for this game, it's 5.5, 6. It's been a mixture. It's been pretty much 500 as far as overs and unders between Calgary and Vancouver in recent years. This one is one. Now, I'm going very light on draws to begin the year. This is one that almost made the cut for me as a draw, because we have seen Calgary play a lot of draws going back to last year, and a couple of the recent head-to-head meetings also went to overtime. So the draw, it did get on my radar, but I didn't end up taking it. Alex, what do you think here? Flames Canucks.
This is a draw that I have. I actually got the worst of the number. I got plus 330 yesterday. I'm seeing now plus 360 available at Bet Online. So I think this could be a close one. Like I said, Devin Cooley, his ceiling, I think, is NHL backup, right? Like what I've seen from him, even within the Wranglers, he looked better than he did with what we saw in San Jose. And so maybe he could be a formidable backup. But this is definitely a spot where it could be a little tough. Second of back-to-backs, although shouldn't be much fatigue, being that it's early in the year. This is one where I could still see, like I said, we've seen these teams not really come out hot and heavy in their home openers. It wouldn't shock me, like you said, Calgary gets a goal early, gets that momentum, and then Vancouver kind of wakes up afterwards. So this may take a little longer than 60 to figure out. So just going with the draw here. Plus 360 is the best available price right now.
All right, good stuff. As far as props, I don't have as many props on this game. I'm going to dabble again in the Klapka-Farabee experiment. Didn't pan out last night, but if they stay with Kadri, there's still value there for Vancouver. As far as props here tonight, I like Connor Garland, and even Arshdeep Bains. If he plays with Hedel on the second line, going to get some opportunity. And there's a couple of these third liners that are playing with Kane. Braden Coots is someone that, first overall or 15th overall first round pick from this year's draft. And he really impressed Adam Foote and the coaching staff. That's why he's on this team. Braden Coots right out of training camp. And the other one is Lekaramaki. Jonathan Lekaramaki here for Vancouver, who had a really good playoff run with Abbotsford last year in the AHL. So I think those are a couple of players worth looking at as far as props tonight. And Gridden. Yeah, Gridden as well, Robert. I don't mind that either. He looked very solid as well for the Flames last night in that game. So taking him again to score at plus 350 is not the best, is absolutely not a bad option for sure. I don't know if I have one I love for every game, Pedro, as far as your question. Can you please give out who you guys like as best goal scorer for each game? But I will get back to that when we finish our game breakdowns. I'll try to give you one that I like the most from each game. As far as value goes, and I'm not going to give you the obvious one. Like, I would not answer that question with Austin Matthews, Tage Thompson, Connor McDavid. No, we're looking for a little value. Yes, sure, you can bet them to score a goal, but I often look for the value in the price as far as my favorite goal prop. So that's what I'll try to give you as far as answering that question after we finish these last two games. All right, Vegas and San Jose. We've got Vegas minus 200 road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. By the way, we have not had the goalie confirmed yet. I should have mentioned this for Vancouver, but we do expect it'll be Thatcher Demko. Vegas, San Jose. Very interesting. No Askarov for San Jose. I was thinking he would get the start. It's Alex Nedeljkovic will make his Sharks debut here for them tonight. We fully expect with Aiden Hill playing last night and obviously didn't have a great performance. It'll be Akira Schmid making his Vegas Golden Knights. Actually, no, I think he was with them briefly last year down the stretch. But
he played a couple games.
Yeah, his first start of the year this year for the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll see how he performs. He's had some decent starts in the past. How will he hold up here is going to be the question. One thing I like about San Jose is kind of like Montreal of the West, where they're really formulating a nice nucleus up front. Celebrini, Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund. Very good group up there as far as that's concerned. No question. Tyler Toffoli, they got some veterans sprinkled in with Wenberg, Tyler Toffoli. They bring in Jeff Skinner for them as well. Barclay Goodrow, Adam Gaudette coming off his best offensive season from the Ottawa Senators. So this team's got some offensive capabilities, but the blue line is still a work in progress. I mean, Nick Leddy and John Klingberg. Now, I like Warsofsky. He had this team working hard last year, but come on, Nick Leddy and John Klingberg's your top pairing? What is this, 2015? My goodness, like 10 years ago? Did we go back 10 years to 2015 with those two guys as a top pair? Not in 2025. Nick Leddy's on the downslope, and you know what Klingberg's been like the last couple of years. He's been a disaster at times defensively. Although there were I thought Edmonton got way more out of him than I ever expected they would. But still, I'm not buying in. I'm not all in on John Klingberg on a top pairing. There's just no way. So that's a little rough. Ferraro, I like. Timothy Liljegren, he can look great one moment, not so good the next. Orlov, good regular season, struggled a bit in the playoffs, but he is a veteran guy. And Shakir Makhmadullah, that's not a great blue line. It's a little rough back there on the blue line for this San Jose team. So you worry about that because, as I've said with Nedeljkovic, this is a guy that when he had the great blue line in front of him for Carolina years ago, he played great. When he had a less than stellar blue line in front of him with Detroit, and then again with Pittsburgh, it wasn't so good for Nedeljkovic. It wasn't. The numbers weren't as good. They did decline. And now he's got this very, very dubious blue line with some holes in it for San Jose. So does that affect him here? And you got to think Vegas probably ticked off blowing that game against LA last night. So I will run it back with Vegas team total over 3.5 tonight. Same bet I cashed with last night. By the way, go back to series history. You want a series history nugget to back up this Vegas team total bet? 7 straight times they've beaten San Jose. 7 straight times they've scored at least 4 goals against San Jose. So how about that? 7 straight times they've scored 4 goals against the San Jose Sharks. So over 3.5 at -110. I like that team total for Vegas. And I'm also on the over by Fecta here. Over 1.5 first period. I got an over 6 full game. It's moved to 6.5 in a lot of places. I see a lot of the 6s have disappeared. Shop around, see if you can find one. But even at 6.5, I don't mind it. I think it's a higher scoring game anyway. And so over by Fecta for me, and Vegas team total over 3.5 for me in this one. Alex, Vegas, San Jose.
So I like both teams to score in the first period pregame. I'll be grabbing first period over in game, and I'm going to back as well that Vegas team total over 3.5. I got -$1.10 as well. Like I said, this is not the great goaltending matchup of the year for sure. If it's Schmid and Nedeljkovic, there could be goals back and forth for sure. But 6.5. Like I said, yeah, shop around and wait for that. But I like goals early more. So both teams to score. Plus 150, I got that pregame, and then I'm waiting for something in the -110, 115 range for that first period over.
You know what I'm just as excited about? This is actually going to be, I think, a fun, exciting game between these two teams tonight. I'm just as excited, as much as I'm excited for the game, I'm excited about another thing. This is an ESPN Plus game tonight, and on the call of it is the newest addition of the ESPN NHL play-by-play family, John Kelly, the longtime voice of the St. Louis Blues, and of course now taking over as the voice of the LA Kings this year on television. ESPN's has got him on their roster of play-by-play guys this year, so he'll be doing some ESPN national games this year. John Kelly, so good. Everyone was just saying, "Oh, poor John Kelly left out in the cold" when St. Louis blindsided him and removed him from the television broadcast for financial reasons because they're cheap. And Blues fans are livid, by the way. They're irate about that. They are so pissed off with how the Blues treated John Kelly, and rightfully so. And we thought, oh boy, what's going to happen with John Kelly? And everyone's worried there's a great announcer. Well, he can't be left dangling in the wind. Sure enough, he's picked up by the LA Kings to take over from Nick Nixon on television, and now he's also going to be doing games on ESPN. How about that? Good things happen to good people, right?
Yep, absolutely. And most importantly about this too, not only will we get to hear John Kelly, but we don't have to hear Randy Hahn.
That's an upgrade. Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Always.
No question about that.
Always.
Yeah, so that'll be good. It'll be, I believe, Cassie with him as well. So there you go, John Kelly and Cassie on the late night broadcast there with Vegas and San Jose. So that'll be good. All right. Oh, by the way, props. Anything with Eichel, Marner, and Barbashev. I'm going back to Barbashev again. I mean, as long as he's on that top line, and Eichel and Marner can't always shoot the puck. They're going to have to defer at some point, to Barbashev, and they certainly did that at least once last night when he got on the board. Still, you're getting plus 300. I mean, they're already dropping this price a little bit on Barbashev, but still plus 300. Good price for him to find the back of the net. Marner assist. Marner, Marner and Eichel. I'm going to go with a Marner and Eichel 2 points parlay. 2 points for both of them tonight. Eichel and Marner, and that'll pay nicely, I think, in my opinion. So I'm looking at that as a situation where I think Vegas. That top line looked awesome last night, despite falling to LA 6-5. So, like I said, definitely interested to see how they perform tonight in this one. All right, Anaheim and Seattle. We have reached the summit, if you will, our final game of this massive Thursday card. Yeah, great job, NHL. 14 games tonight and none tomorrow. Make that make sense. You can't make sense of it. It's just absolutely ludicrous. But I'm not surprised anymore. Just not surprised anymore with what the NHL does.
Well, I mean, they need that because there's all 16, all 32 teams playing on Saturday. So
yes, yeah. So I guess they need a little buffer. You're right, and they don't want too many. That's the good news. There won't be anybody on back-to-back when it happens on Saturday when they load up the slate for the first Saturday of the season. All right, Anaheim, Seattle. Seattle minus 130, home favorites, 6 the total. This is a pretty straightforward, first game of the season handicap for me. I think the team that's going to end up being the better team is the underdog. And I think the team that's the inferior team is the wrong team favored here. And Anaheim, keep this in mind too. Not only do I think Anaheim's going to be better, they bring in Joel Quenneville. They've got a nice mix of great talent up front and veterans like Alex Killorn and Chris Kreider now on this team. Well, second year for Killorn, but first year for Kreider. Cutter Gauthier, I think, is ready to explode offensively. Michael Granlund, who had a great year with Dallas, especially down the stretch. They get him to add some depth. They've got Paling and Colangelo on the fourth line. Those guys are capable. You still have Frank the Tank Vetrano, Troy Terry, Leo Carlson, I think, is going to have a great year, really settle in as a number one center. You've got a Jackson Lacombe, maybe got paid a little too much, but he still got paid, and and it's good to see them re-sign him long term. Jackson, Kookie, Lenmi Lacombe, Radko Gudas, Olin Zellweger, Jacob Trouba, Pavel Minchikov, and you've got Lukas Dostal, who I sprinkled to win the Vezina this year. I think he could be that good. The pieces are in place for this Anaheim team to make a jump, make an improvement, challenge to make the playoffs. I've got a small piece of them to make the playoffs, as does Alex. I'm not saying they will, but I think they absolutely will challenge here to make the playoffs, this Anaheim team. And I think they're improved. And I like the coaching hire. I'm not convinced Seattle's improved, and I don't love the coaching hire there with Lane Lambert. What did he do with the Islanders? It was a tough go for him there with the New York Islanders. They struggled. They didn't really improve, and they're a bit banged up too. Riker Evans on IR. Brandon Montour's been banged up. Vince Dunn's been banged up. Chandler Stevenson banged up. Jared McCann banged up. Montour's going to play. Vince Dunn will have to wait and see. I don't have an update yet for him. Jared McCann, he's been battling a lower body injury. Chandler Stevenson's dealing with an injury throughout camp. We'll see if he's in the lineup. Capo Caco's on IR to begin the year, and he started to play real well for the Seattle Kraken last year. So, like I said, I just think Anaheim plus 110. I expect this team to be better. I'm not convinced Seattle's better. I like the coaching hire better with Anaheim. And Anaheim, too. Last year when Anaheim didn't have a great year, Seattle didn't either, but Anaheim didn't have a great year last year. And despite that, Anaheim still went to Seattle, to Climate Pledge Arena, and they beat them twice. Anaheim won both times they made the trip to Seattle last year. They beat the Kraken. So Why can't they do it again? I think they will. So I'm on Anaheim. Quack, quack, plus 110. Alex, what do you think? Anaheim, Seattle.
Yeah, this is one I bet a while back and actually ended up being the worst of the number. I laid $1.10, and now you can get plus $1.10. I'm not sure why all this money came in on Seattle because, like I said, I'm high on Anaheim, and I'm much lower on Seattle this year. And I said, don't like their coaching hire. Just didn't like what I saw from them in preseason either. So yeah, give me Anaheim in this one.
As for props, I mean, I'm going to be for Seattle. There are a couple for Seattle. Most of my props here obviously are Anaheim, but I don't mind Shane Wright. I don't mind Mason. I do like the Mason Marchman edition for Seattle. So a couple props there. And for Anaheim, Leo Carlsson, goal and an assist. Cutter Gauthier, goal. Beckett Seneke, because he's looking like he's going to play on the top line with Mason or second line with Mason McTavish and Cutter Gauthier. There's value there with him, no question. Granlund, goal, assist. Even a sprinkle on the likes of Colangelo and Paling, who actually, Colangelo is someone that definitely ended up, chipping in some offense last year for them. Paling, of course, as well on the fourth line. So those are a few props I like there. And again, Lukas Dostal. And I will say this, it's a good goaltending battle. One of the things I do like about Seattle is Joey Decord. I am a Joey Decord fan, so it should be a nice goaltending matchup here with Joey Decord versus Lukas Dostal in net. But I just think Anaheim's a little bit better on the back end, definitely more firepower than Seattle, and they'll find a way to pick up the win there on the road. And again, they won both times they went to Seattle last year, did the Anaheim Ducks. Great stuff. How about that? 14 games, brisk pace. Feel like I need some water after this. 90 minutes to get through 14 games, rapid fire pace. Thanks to everyone for joining us as always in the chat. We appreciate your support. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Again, check out wizardsportspicks.com, the new home of me, Alex, Matt Robinson, a handicapper on the site.
Dana Lane, OG.
Dana Lane, our old friend as well. Absolutely, and more. Great roster. Check out Picks Daily. We have single game premium picks available now. We'll be rolling out pick packages, multi-pick packages, and long-term subscription options once the site is fully up and operational, but you can check it there for single game premium picks and free plays on a daily basis as well. Check it out at wizardsportspicks.com. And also, of course, the Patreon Ice Guys page. Become a member. Hey, you've missed out. If you did not jump on board before the first 2 nights of the season, you missed multiple bargain bin winners, multiple best bet winners. The daily card's been pretty good so far. You probably already have made money for your subscription and then some already the first 2 days of the season. So again, just $10 per month to become a Patreon member. You'll get goalie charts, totals charts, bonus videos, bonus content, our daily betting cards, sides, totals, player props posted each and every single day on the Patreon page, and also our live chat rooms. And I'll be involved in the live betting chat room tonight. Any live bet, I'll pop it into our live chat, the Patreon page. So make sure you check that out. And this is one of those nights, because it's such a big card, sometimes I post some of these live bets on Twitter. Not tonight. They will be exclusive to the Patreon page and the live chat. So get on board there. Anything we bet live in-game tonight, you will see it there in the live chat on the Patreon page. It's one of the best values you could think of for just $10 per month with everything you get as a Patreon Ice Guys member. So check it out, patreon.com/Ice Guys.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of situations like I had last night where Oliver Kapanen, I didn't mention his name once on the air, but put him in there plus 700 anytime goal scorer at cash. So it pays to definitely be.
If you're a Patreon member, you knew about it. Yep.
That's right. Absolutely. And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. For the next 4 days, if you spend $70 or more, you could save 20% off. Just hit the redeem button at checkout, add $70 or more of items into your cart, and that coupon will be available at checkout. So there's 4 days left. Save 20% on orders $70 or more. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
There it is. Check out, get that discount, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
where the kings and queens shop.
Check it out, royalcannabisshop.com, 20% off using the promo code Ice Guys. All right, bargain bin special of the night. Well, we have had one bargain bin special of the night from someone for the first two nights. We had Alex's Frank Nazar at plus 2,200, first goal on Tuesday. Perlo's Ivan Barbashev, close shave Barbashev last night for Vegas. We'll see if we can keep the streak of at least one bargain bin special coming through for us here. Alex, what do you like tonight for bargain bin special? Certainly a lot to choose from.
Yes, it is. And Jonathan Davis, you will be upset to know that it is not coming from the Chicago-Boston game. It is actually coming from the Minnesota-St. Louis game, my bargain bin special tonight. We're going to go with Mr. Smooth, Robert Thomas to get the first goal of the game at plus 1,700. Guy got that available at FanDuel. I like him to get things rocking and rolling. I also like that first period over in that game. So let's go with Rob Thomas. Plus 1,700, first goal. It's my bargain bin special tonight, St. Louis.
There you go. Another first goal prop, bargain bin special, I should say, from Alex. So there you go. Robert Thomas, St. Louis Blues, first goal for Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special of the night. My bargain bin special of the night, lots to choose from here as well. But I'm going to take the value. And even though I like the Hurricanes in this game, to get Evgeny Dodonov at plus 550 with Hughes and Bratt is a hell of a great price. It's so great that I am making that my bargain bin special of the night. Evgeny Dodonov, New Jersey Devils, plus 550 with Hughes and Bratt on that top line. I will roll with that for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, we're going to actually head on out to the Motor City, and we're going to take a shot with, like I said, this is a trend that we looked at last year when Jakub Dobeš was in net. He gives up the first goal of the game, so we're going to go with first period team to score first goal, Detroit Red Wings, plus 115. That is available at FanDuel, and that'll be my best bet tonight.
All right, there we go. Liking that for Alex B. Smith there with his best bet for this Thursday NHL card. All right, my best bet here for tonight. There's a couple that I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Columbus. I like that Jet Greaves is starting for them. We will go with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Plus 105 is the best price still out there right now. Like I said, I think Greaves with the great finish to last year, still a lot of questions about just overall team speed. You know, can Marchessault and Stamkos, the two veterans, bounce back? You know, Yossi's still a very good player, but there's still questions on the blue line. And again, it was a down year for UC Saros in net. So there's still a lot of questions for Nashville. Columbus, you know, really rallied around Greaves last year down the stretch to almost make the playoffs. I think they can go into Nashville and win. So give me Columbus here, plus 105 against Nashville for my best bet here for this Thursday NHL card. Shout out to the chat. We appreciate you guys. Hit the like button on the way out. And like I said, excited about this huge Thursday card. A reminder, too, no show tomorrow. There are no NHL games tomorrow. So we will not be on tomorrow. No Ice Guys show, but we will be back Saturday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It'll be a long one. Me, Alex, and Ryan Robinson will be joining us for that one on Saturday. And then we'll be back on Sunday, also noon Eastern, with the Sunday and Monday card combined into the Sunday show. And we'll be off Monday for Canadian Thanksgiving. There you have it. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy it. It's hockey madness, everybody. 14 games. Enjoy them all. Good luck with your wagers, and we will see you next on Saturday at noon Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.